One of mine is all about the books that I read for the last 40 years. And today I have my special guest. He is the author of the book Teetering on a Tightrope, My Bipolar Journey, no other than Mr. Stephen Wilson.
Thank you for that. Good evening.
Good evening, Mr. Stephen, and welcome to Book 101 Review. And can you please introduce more about yourself?
Well, when I was 9 years old, I was a perfect kid, I thought. Of course, every perfect kid thinks they're perfect, but I was good at sports. I was good at school. I had a lot of friends. And then in 1958, when I was 9, I was raped. That changed my whole world. Soon after that, I fell into a deep depression. It lasted through elementary school, junior high school, and high school, sometimes very deep. A lot of the nights I couldn't sleep. The real bad thing was I quit sports, I quit studying, I didn't play with my friends, and I was down badly. That lasted all through my high school years. But I managed to get in college in Florida, and college was better, not because I was better, but because it was a change of space, a place, and a lot of fun. So I was able to fake it, and I had a very good time most of the time. Graduated in 1970, went back home to Ohio, and I fell into the deepest depression I ever had. I even had suicidal ideations. One night, I tried to stab my father, but instead, luckily, I put myself in a mental hospital where I stayed for 3 weeks. After that, I never had another suicidal ideation, but they did diagnose me as clinically depressed in 1972. I couldn't get any relief from any of the depression medications. And in 1968, my psychiatrist said he made a mistake. I was bipolar. Well, hell, I didn't know what that was. Nobody ever said anything about it. I didn't know it existed. But they put me on lithium, and it began to work almost overnight. I got well enough so I could function. Sleep habits weren't any better. A lot of things weren't better, but I could function. And I went to work in my father's company. And about 6 months later, I quit. That was just the beginning of quitting or being fired. I couldn't shut out any of the ruminations that were flying in my head, so I got other jobs. I failed at all of them. I either quit or was fired. I was very depressed, but still I could function. Um, Still, some terrible things happened during that time. Um, but over time, I got better. Now, all my life and for the rest of my life, I will have problems. There is no cure for bipolar disorder. but I've survived and had a damn good life. And all in all, the world thinks that when somebody is mentally ill, it means they're already always mentally ill and not a good person. Well, that's not true. I became a lot better. I wrote my book in 2022, and I wrote it for a couple of reasons. One, I wanted to show people who were mentally ill and their families and friends and anybody else anywhere the things that can happen to somebody when they have a major mental illness. I wanted them to know blow by blow what happened to me. And the other thing is, I had survived. I'm in good shape now. And I wanted to let people know who are mentally ill and their families and friends that they can get through this and lead rewarding lives.
Mr. Steve Wilson, thank you so much for sharing your empowering memoir to the world.
Thank you.
When did you shift from seeing bipolar as a life sentence to a journey you navigate?
No, now what was that again?
When did you shift from seeing bipolar as a life sentence to a journey you navigate?
When did I know?
Yes.
Not until, and I don't know when, my therapist told me that it can't be cured. And I don't know when that was, maybe 1990, somewhere around in there. But I want to tell you something that was very unfortunate that happened to me. Somewhere in about 1985, I still hadn't told anybody in the world that I got raped. I blamed myself for the incident. I thought it was all my fault, so I didn't say anything. But then on one day, I got the courage to tell my psychiatrist. So I said, I was raped when I was 9. He looked at me, never said a word. We went on to something else. I didn't know what to say, so I said nothing. I kept it inside of me. Then I tried again a few years later with another therapist, told her what happened. And guess what? She ignored me too. So those incidents made my journey a lot longer. Now, I want to say something that everybody should hear. Psychiatrists, therapists are not always right. They make mistakes. But mostly, they should say, I'm sorry, I screwed up. These two didn't and wouldn't. Actually, that I hope that doesn't happen very often. I don't think it does. But for me, it was brutal.
Well, Mr. Steve, why is vital to the title? It may bipolar journey or no? Why is it the vital? Or is it vital to title it My Bipolar Journey instead of A Bipolar Journey?
Why is it my bipolar journey?
Yes.
Because it's how I spent my life with bipolar.
Okay, so what's one scene you almost cut for being too vulnerable and why did you keep it?
Say that again.
What's one scene you almost cut for being too vulnerable, and why did you keep it?
I still didn't hear that, so slow down.
What's one scene you
Scene?
almost yeah, scene you almost cut for being too vulnerable for your book?
Vulnerable.
Yes.
Did I think I was vulnerable?
Yes.
Well, hell, I knew it. I was vulnerable all during my life because I was bipolar. Um, Something people don't understand is when a mental illness enters your life, you have almost no ways to fight it. It is a lifelong journey. There are terrible ups and terrible downs. Now, I'm bipolar 2, which means I was mostly depressed. And then most of the time, I would go into hypomania. Now, bipolar 1 is depression to mania. That's not the mania I have. That kind of mania is when you're totally out of control. You lose money, you buy things you can't afford, you hurt people, you lose your family, you lose all your money. And when you come down to nothing. That's not me. I mostly suffered depression, deep depression, and hypomania. So I fought those all my life. I never gave up trying to get better. It happened over 50 years. But now I am in such good shape, even though I still have bipolar and make stupid things happen, I have never felt better in my life.
Mr. Steve, if you don't mind, who raped you when you was 9 years
Can't tell
old?
you. And the reason I can't tell you, I have no idea. I was at a movie theater restroom. A guy jumped me. I didn't see his face. I knew I never knew him. So I have no idea.
So did you report to the police
No,
when?
I thought it was my fault. I didn't want anybody to know. I was scared.
Okay. And Mr. Steve, what moment forced you to choose between surrender or rebuilding?
From the beginning, even when I was 9. See, that's a big choice that anybody who is mentally ill has to make. They can give up, they can go on and fight it. Totally a choice they have to make.
Totally choice for sure. And how did you undiagnosed episodes damage trust and what repaired it?
Now tell me that again. Remember, I'm hard of hearing.
How did you repair your self confidence?
How did I gain confidence?
Yes.
Because I never thought that it was the way I was going to live for the rest of my life. I went into trauma therapy a few years ago, and I learned so much. She took me back through my whole life, beginning at the beginning, and we went over everything that I could remember that happened to me. And I blame myself for almost all of them. Well, she showed me the way to understand that most of the things that happened to me were not my fault. The rape, the suicidal ideations, and everything. When we got done after about 10 months of therapy, I was on my way quickly to get better. And that was just 5 years ago.
Yes, Mr. Steve, it's not your fault. And thank God you recovered from that trauma, and congratulations, you're sharing your memoir to the world.
Yes. May I talk about a couple things?
Yes, go ahead.
Well, first, well, I guess we've said everything about my book. It's on Amazon. It has a new cover. It's been republished, and you can look for it on Amazon.
Yes.
Number two, since 2015, I've been the facilitator of 3 weekly mental health support groups. I have worked with over 1,000 people. During those years, now I got to say one thing. Most of my members are on the low end of the economic calendar, whatever you want to say. Most of them have a very difficult time getting help because of 3 reasons. First, the government, the big pharma, and the medical or the insurance agency work against them. The government hasn't done what I think is much of anything for years. They do offer disability, which allows the people to receive medicines for free, therapy for free, which I don't think is. I have been with people to their therapy that the government offers. I think it's very poor. Some may disagree with me, but that's my feeling. So, what else does the government do? They offer them disability if they can qualify. And normally, the government won't give them disability for 2 or 3 years, and that's the standard. And if you can receive disability, you're limited to $20,000 per year, which is an unlivable number. Here's the worst thing. If these people go out and get a part-time job and make anything over that puts them over $20,000, even if it's only a nickel, the government takes away its disability payments. So many times, the people who are on disability at $20,000 now have less to live on. I hope everybody understands the horrible situation these people are in. Now, number two, most of my people receive therapy, we'll say many, only from groups like mine because they can't afford insurance out of their pockets and they can't afford to pay for the amounts that therapists and psychiatrists call now because the insurance companies that work with the professionals have raised their rates so high that the therapists don't make much money and they're forced to raise rates. And another thing that happened to me was when I was about 25, I got my first um, medical insurance. On the very top of that policy were the words, does not cover mental illness. So no matter how people can say, oh, he doesn't get a job, he won't help himself, he's lazy, you can see why. Most of my people try hard as hell to get better, but without any help except mine and other facilitators, they're stuck.
Mr. Steve Wilson, thank you so much for sharing your memoir to the world.
Thank you very much.
Before we wrap up our
Appreciate it.
discussion, before
Pardon
we
me?
wrap, go ahead.
Are we done?
No, not yet. Before we wrap up our discussion for today, Mr. Steven, I'm inviting you to please do listen to my other podcast, people, my other podcast, because my
Yeah.
abstract essay is already in fifth season, abstract poetry in second season, and my book 101 review in fifth season too. Comedy 101 in second season, and my food 101 in fifth season as well. Geography 101 in fourth season, and my baby podcast. Uh, Law 101 and Mental Health 101, Love Letters in third season, and Movie 101 Review and Music 101 in its fourth season, and Science 101 and Sex 101 in
Wow. You're a man of many talents.
first. Yes, and
Congratulations.
thank you so much in first season. Please listen to them wherever you listen your podcasts. Mr. Steven, to wrap up our discussion today, what would you whisper to yourself on the hardest day captured in your
Oh,
memoir?
simple. Keep going.
Yes. Keep going, people. Keep going. Teetering on the Tightrope by Mr. Steven Wilson. So, can you please invite our listeners to support your memoir, Mr. Steven? And thank you so much for sharing your knowledge and wisdom to the world, that our
Thank you very much. I
listeners.
loved it.
Yes. And can you please invite our listeners to support your memoir?
Please buy it. You'll get a lot of information. It possibly will trigger people, but
Yes.
it was worth it for me to write it.
It's worth it because truly inspiring, Mr. Steve. And again, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Daniel. Appreciate it.
More to come, people. See you soon.
Okay. Bye.